Well, how's it going, YouTube? Back again with another scintillating product review. Just before we start, if you've never seen any of my reviews before on YouTube, this type of review anyway, I'll warn you now, they're not very high on the old entertainment factor. It really is all about the product, I suppose, and just to try and help inform you before you lay down your hard-earned cash, what you're getting for your money, and whether it's worth the spend or not. So it really is aimed at someone who's thinking of making a purchase. It's not entertaining, it's not a breathtaking display of musicianship, as you will see from my other videos. It's aimed at just letting you know what the features of the instrument are, what it's like in a real world type situation. I play in a band, so I can tell you what it's like to gig with and play live, and then you can decide what you want to do about buying your new bass guitar. So this particular review, by popular demand, one person asked me would I review the Thunderbird. I'm going to review this today, which is the Epiphone Thunderbird, obviously modelled, copied, whatever way you want to see it, on the Gibson of the same name. Had various body shapes over the years historically, and is now available in this reverse style body shape here, in this rather fetching vintage sunburst. Now, I'll talk about the body and all the bits and bobs in a moment. Just a few words about how I ended up with this. As I've already said, I played bass in a band. As I've said on my previous reviews, I'm an accidental bass player. I'm a guitarist first and foremost. We didn't have a bass player, I ended up playing bass. So I've only been playing for about 18 months or thereabouts. I was given the cheapest bass we could afford as a band. One of the lads bought it and gave it me and said, there you go, learn that, which is what I did. Played a gig with it. I can't remember what it was called, a Wesley I think, or something like that. It was about 100 quid. Played a gig with it, got us by, but I'd got no faith in it being robust enough to withstand the rigours of life on the road. You know how it is. So I decided, right, if we're going to do this properly, it's time to spend a little bit more cash and get something a bit more decent. And I saw this. And in fact, the fella, Doc, if you're listening, the fella that bought that first bass for the band also recommended I check out the Thunderbird, as he thought it was a pretty cool looking instrument, and I had to agree with him. As soon as I saw it, I had to have it. These retail around about the £200 mark. I think I paid slightly more, about $220 or something in that order, for this. I've had it about 18 months or thereabouts. I've gigged fairly extensively with it, half a dozen gigs in that time period with this particular instrument. So it's been put through its paces in a live environment, practiced a lot of rehearsal time on this particular instrument. It's travelled the globe, or the four corners of Ireland anyway, and it's still going strong, much to my shame and disgrace, with the original strings that came with it. So it's probably one of the first things I should have changed, but not being much of a bass player, I just stuck with what I had. So it does need a fresh set of strings. You can see that just from the colour of them. They're pretty manky, but they've done the business. So I have got a spare set of strings to put on it. I just haven't got around to doing it yet. Okie dokie. So Epiphone, as you'll know from my other reviews, huge fan of Epiphone products. I think for the musician who's playing about in being a band and also has a proper job, or isn't good enough to make it his proper job, his or her proper job, then Epiphone products I think represent tremendous value for money, quality instruments, good bang for buck, and that's why I'm a great fan. I couldn't lay down £2 or £3 grand on a Gibson Thunderbird at all. So this was the next best thing for me. You'll have to look this up. To be quite honest, if you're thinking of buying one of these anyway, you should be looking this sort of stuff up on the Epiphone website or elsewhere about the body materials. But from what I can remember, you have mahogany neck, rosewood fretboard. I think the body is maple, but again, don't take my word for that, look that up. And unlike the Gibson, which has the neck through construction, in other words, the neck runs all the way from here to here with a couple of wings bolted onto it or glued onto it, whatever. This is made to look like that with this raised area here in the middle, but is actually in two pieces. You have the body and then a bolt-on neck. So it shares the styling, but not actually the feature of a neck-through construction. It's built like the proverbial brick privy. It's absolute tank of an instrument, solid as a rock. Weighs, it's quite a heavy instrument, particularly the neck. More about that in a moment. It comes loaded with two Thunderbird humbucking pickups. I think they're the same, both in the bridge and the neck position. I think they're the same pickup, but obviously you get a slightly different sound because of the different position. To be quite honest with you, I just have everything wide open when I play this, so I don't mess about with the individual volume settings for each pickup. I just have everything wide open, including the tone, and just make thunder, which is what this thing does very well indeed. For the two pickups, you have independent volume controls 1 and 2. So instead of a toggle switch, you've got a volume control for each pickup here. I don't know whether you can see all this or not, but two volume controls, one for each pickup, and then the tone control here, which does both. You have a 3-point fully adjustable floating bridge type thing that looks like a small oil rig, actually. Oops, daisy. You have the jack input here, as you can see. You have a fancy pick guard, contrast colour white, contrast for the body, with the little bird logo on it here. As I've already said, you've got this raised area in the middle, which is purely a styling feature, made to look like the neck is a neck-through construction, when in fact it isn't. You have a lovely burst. It's high gloss sheen on this instrument. It's absolutely gorgeous. You could probably do your hair in it if you were that way inclined in the reflection. It's looking a bit grubby now because I've sweat over it quite a lot. You've quite a dark brown or black. It's more like a dark brown around the edge, fading into a sort of lighter brown here, and then you have a lovely grain showing through on the wood. Same on the back of the instrument, where you've got the access plate for the electronics, and this quite robust looking Epiphone embossed nameplate thing, which contains obviously the 4 screws or bolts, whatever they are, for the neck attachment. The tuning pegs, of which there are 4, funnily enough, fully featured, are rock solid. Again, it's been bashed about in the back of a van, albeit in a hard case. I'll show you that in a moment. It's gone through temperature extremes, humidity changes. It's not been very well cared for, other than when it's been transported, when it's always been in a hard case, but it has had quite a hard life over the last 18 months. It very rarely drifts out of tune, even when played hard and during a live gig. You see me on some of our videos, some of the band videos on my YouTube channel, Grounds for Divorce. Check out our Facebook page. You'll see me on those videos making frequent adjustments to the tuning of this when I've played it live. That's, to be honest, more about nerves and habits than it is to do with any concerns that this has gone out of tune. So the tuning pegs, 4 in line across the top here. I don't know what make they are, it doesn't say on them. Again, look that up. But they are very, very solid, and the thing stays in tune extremely well. Truss rod cover with the Epiphone logo printed on in gold. Black headstock with brown wood around the edge here. What else to say? Not much else to say about that, I don't think. If I've missed anything, I don't think so. I'm rushing this a little bit because I'm not sure how much battery's left on the camcorder, and I don't have to start it all over again if I run out. So, right, the couple of things to say about this particular instrument that are fairly well reported, well known about it, that it's probably famous for or infamous for. It would be remiss of me to do a product review on the Thunderbird without mentioning the neck dive. It is absolutely horrendous, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of people out there who put up with it or say it's no biggie, whatever. In my opinion, I put up with it for a while. You can hold it up, yes you can, and it wasn't that was bugging me. It was the constant ache on my left shoulder from the strap, pulling. It's so unbalanced, just pulling on one side the whole time, and after you've played it for half an hour or whatever, your shoulder and neck really starts to ache. It's all weight on the left side. The neck is really long, very heavy, the headstock's very heavy, and I think most of the problem is to do with the location of this strap button here. If you can see, that's the stock strap button just here on that part of the guitar. There's one here at the bass, but there's one here and it's in totally the wrong position. It's a real design flaw in my opinion. First thing I do with most of my gear, especially my bass guitars, is stick strap locks on, and that's what I did here. There's one strap lock here on the end, but I took it because I wasn't confident enough about drilling things that I just bought. I took it to a guitar repairer in Dublin and asked him to remedy the situation with the neck dive for me, and what he did was fitted another strap button here. So the button actually goes in, screws in that direction. There's the heel part of the neck here is just wide enough to take that securely, and what that means is he's not running into any damage with or potential damage with the truss rod or anything of that nature, which is why he didn't go in that direction. I know some people have done that, but his view was safer to go in that direction, so that's the way he's done it on this one, and cured the neck dive immediately. I mean, this is a lovely balanced instrument now to play. It's comfortable to wear for long periods of time, which wasn't the case before. It really has sorted it, simply moving from here to behind the neck. It's spread the weight evenly now across the shoulders, and it's, as I said, it's a joy. It's still very heavy, but it's not all pulling on one side like it was before. So I'd recommend that's a must in my opinion. If you're going to buy one of these, is you need to think about getting that done immediately, really, on purchase, because it just drove me nuts. It really did. I thought it was appalling. The second thing to talk about, again, would be remiss of me, is the noise that this thing makes. Before I give you a quick sound clip or demo, the way I view this particular bass guitar is a real workhorse, tank, solid, heavy, bomb-proof type instrument. Now, my Jack Cassidy hanging up there on the wall, 500 quid's worth of gear, semi-hollow body and all that, as you would expect, probably a good step up from this. Actually, not so much, a very different instrument, but quality-wise, I mean, this is a superb quality bass guitar, I think. Plays really well and straight out of the box. I've had no setup done on it. This has got a real substantial, hefty feel to it, where you wouldn't really worry if you dropped it or hit anything with it or anything like that there. It really does feel bomb-proof. The Jack Cassidy would give me a few nerves around it being a bit more fragile, a bit more temperamental. It's a lot more subtle as well in its playing style. The Jack Cassidy, it responds very differently whether you're using fingers, pick, the different pickup selector on it and everything. It's a very subtle. I compare the two to like a surgeon's scalpel. If you think the Jack Cassidy is the surgeon's scalpel, compared to this, the machete of the bass world. I mean, it really is just all about thunder, as the name would suggest. So it's a lovely, deep, solid rumble. Perfect for classic rock, as is the Jack Cassidy. Perfect for classic rock. You might get some metal out of it. I don't really know. I don't sort of play that stuff. I've heard it's all right for slap. I don't play that either. I do play with pick and with fingers. Play with both live on this particular instrument, and both sound great. But this deep, consistent, solid rumble is how this bass can best be summarised. I think that's with everything wide open. If you really do want to fanny about with the pickups and change the settings and all that, you might get some different tonal variations. I've not been asked. I've just stuck with everything wide open, and make it thunder is my mantra. So I'm going to plug it in. It's already plugged in. I'm going to switch the amp on now, putting it through the valve channel as before on the Jack Cassidy review. You can watch that for a description of the amp settings and of the amp and all the rest of it. But it's a valve preamp, solid state power section, and better for classic rock and sort of 70s rock, that kind of thing. So just a couple of scales just to give you an idea of the sound. One other thing I should say as well, the pickups are shaped on this top and bottom edge, which is quite nice as a thumb rest actually. It's not squared off, it's sort of curved like that there, and it's a good anchor point for the thumb when you're playing that top E string. So very comfortable for using your fingers on this particular bass. So anyway, I'll stop talking now and give you a bit of boom. It's quite cool in this room, and I'm getting a bit stiff on the right hand, so not very fluid. Sorry about that. Fingerstyle scales. Just grab a pick here. Play a. You can hear just a really deep rumble. It's absolutely solid. It's fantastic. I love it. You know, since I got the Jack Cassidy, it's sort of sat on the wall for a while, but it's really not doing it justice. It needs to be played. It's just absolutely fabulous. Another thing to mention here before I forget, due to the gorgeous, in my opinion, body shape, but somewhat unusual body shape, you need to think about getting a decent stand for it. It won't lean up comfortably against a wall. Not that you should be storing your guitars that way anyway. It won't fit very easily in a conventional guitar stand. So I found the older Hercules stands are the best. I've got them now for all my instruments. They're just brilliant. So the grip at the headstock end with that sort of lock-in action there, and the bottom of the guitar just sort of floats or leans against the frame of the stand. So obviously the stand not affected by the unusual curvature at the bottom of the body on this guitar, and excuse me, also holds it very very securely indeed. So if you're going to get one of these, get a Hercules stand to go with it, would be my advice. Let's see. So that gives you the general idea. There's not much else to say about the sound, just solid, thick thunder rumble, and it really is superb. I want to show you this now. I'm going to turn the amp off. Video is going to get a bit wobbly. Apologies for that for just one moment. But I want to show you this before I close. This is not, as you would believe, a medium-sized coffin, but it is in fact the official Epiphone hard case for that particular guitar, the Thunderbird. So it's very very large, as you can see. Black, usual stuff for a hard case. Again, not too exciting. It's a hard case. Epiphone logo, 3 clasps there, there, and there. Big floppy handle. But when you open it, this is when the magic happens. No, I don't know why it does that. It's always done that ever since I bought it. You can't probably see very well on this video, but here, the exact body shape of the Thunderbird, including space for a strap button, is carved out of the material. You have a little slot here for the neck, and then the head end. Neck obviously sits across here, and the head end is in this area here. What you end up with, in the lid, is a raised cushiony bit to sort of press down on the guitar when it's in the box, in the case, sorry, to keep it nice and secure. And what you end up with is a massive storage compartment here. Look at the size of that. Christ, you could get ABBA in there. Well, maybe not Benny, but you could get the rest of ABBA in there, and still have room for a tuner. So there's a huge storage compartment there. I've had leads, a tuner, an iPod, more leads, spare set of strings, a couple of pedals, bloody picks, all sorts in there, in that compartment. There's also room up the head end there, once the head is in, for you to wind your strap around, so if you do get strap locks and you just clip in the strap on and off, it'll fit in the head end quite easily. You have a couple of restraining strap things here and here, each end to stop the lid flying back. Weighs an absolute ton. But look, on the bright side, if you ever got evicted from your house, you could probably live in that for a couple of nights. You could certainly take it camping for a weekend. For a family of 4, I would imagine, would make very comfortable accommodation for those couple of days. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, hope you enjoyed the review. Pretty dull, pretty boring, but gives you the general idea of what the bird is all about. And the bird, on this particular occasion, is indeed the word. It's the Epiphone Thunderbird 4. in vintage sunburst. Does come in other colours. The silver burst that they did for a while was very nice. I think you can get it in white at the moment as well. There's the headstock, gloss black. Very solid tuning pegs, as I've already said. Dirty strings, as I've already said. Neck stops there and doesn't carry on as it appears to. And there's your controls. And on the back, more of the same really. There's nothing special about the back. Just a lovely grain, and you can see probably there's the embossed plate where the neck screws on or bolts on, and there's the grain of the wood. See how glossy that is. That's maybe picking it up a bit better now. Okay, the Epiphone Thunderbird. Hope you enjoyed the review, hope you found it useful. If you're going to drop 200 quid on a bass guitar, whether beginner or intermediate player, you could do a lot worse than that. And certainly if you're going to be in a live gig situation, rehearsing with a band or playing with a band live, and you're playing classic rock, 70s rock, AC/DC, Aerosmith, you know, all that sort of stuff, perfect for that. Great bass. And I have to show you that because isn't that just gorgeous? Look at that. That's the Jack Cassidy there. Check out the other video for that review. And as I've said, check out my band videos to see both basses being played live. We're where are we on that? We're top of the bill on that particular. No, we're not. No, we're there. Grounds for Divorce. We have a Facebook page and lots of YouTube videos. And as the poster says, we are indeed 4 midlife crises, clinging desperately to the last vestiges of our youth and mourning the rock career that we never had. Goodbye YouTube, all the best, see you soon.